Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark back from his man flu deathbed, as we are every Monday night at 9:30, asking the same question: what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on, Mark. As you can clearly tell, anyone who's watching us on YouTube, we are feeling festive, mate. Nice and shiny with our wonderful hats on, which you are dying to take yours off. What's going on with you?
I am definitely dying to take mine off because my head is melting under this hat. So you've had it for the opening. I am taking it off now. So I apologise for that. But I am sticking with my Nakatomi Christmas T-shirt.
Yes.
So
well done. Well done. That Mark is definitely spouting the best Christmas movie ever. I'm going to move my screen a little bit because I am wearing my Christmas Armadillo T-shirt, as you can see there, from Friends, which is absolutely brilliant. So I'll stick that back up because my camera is at a funny angle, to be fair. But yes, we are feeling very, very festive. And why not? It is Christmas, and Ipswich Town gave us a great gift at the weekend, which we are going to talk about clearly in a minute, as well as some unbelievable performances by our key players. But just before we do, a little reminder, if you haven't checked us out already, good to see you. Smash subscribe, hang around a little bit longer, help get us to our next milestone. We finished the year over 9,000 subs. We're actually on 9,100 now. So thank you so much to you awesome people who clicked that button. That's why Mark has dragged himself off his deathbed, where he's had 50 cc's of Barocca just to come on and thank everybody in person for all your wonderful support this year. It doesn't go amiss, guys. We love you for it. And we are live tonight, as always. Jump in the comments. We've already had a few of you in the comments already. Chippers is in the house. Good to see you, Chippers. I think Trevor's in here as well. Marcus is here as well. Chippers is saying just the Rock says turn up tonight. Yeah, absolutely. Ian's in the house as well. Good to see you, Ian. Baz is loving the hats, to be fair, Mark. See, I knew he'd love it, as does Trevor as well, which is absolutely class. So yes, so we've got plenty to talk about tonight, plenty of festive cheer to get stuck into as well. Good to see you two, Guy, in the chat. So let's get stuck right in then, Mark. And please allow me just a second here to talk about the best thing that's come out of Sweden. Better than IKEA, better than ABBA, better than the fucking Volvo. I'm talking about Alexander Isak. He's the man, my word. 3 goals at the weekend, just before we get stuck into Alexander Isak. As an individual performance, Mark. The team, we just looked confident. We looked superior. I saw a couple of Ipswich fan content things as well. They were very respectful of Newcastle. They knew we were a good side. We had some Ipswich fans in the post-match as well, to be fair to them, saying, God, this league can be tough. When Newcastle United are playing like that, when they're on form like that, when they're on song, like when you've got Sandro Tonali at the base of that midfield, just looking like something out of the fucking Godfather, just managing shit. Just absolutely brilliant. He's like, Jesus, honestly, you look like he was going to send some boys to come and get you, the Sandro. He's just absolutely fucking class. And everyone just looks brilliant. And to be fair, Ipswich were missing their best player, Mark. They just couldn't live with could they? From minute one, we're all over them, mate.
I mean, it didn't even take a minute, did it? It was, 26 seconds or something? Yeah, I mean, Newcastle's plan was evident from the off, wasn't it? I mean, I know they're touching it on Match of the Day, but they'd seen a weakness. They've obviously planned for what they were going to see. The way that Ipswich pushed their left-sided defender forward. Leif Davis does like to get forward. He's a very, very attacking fullback, but he leaves gaps. And it was clear from the off what they were going to do, and the Newcastle were at it straight away. And they didn't take their foot off the gas pretty much until into the second half. And it could easily have been much more than 4. And as that Ipswich fan said at the weekend, it says it's ruthless. The league, when you come up against a side that is in the sort of mood that Newcastle were at the weekend, they weren't gonna go anywhere without a result, because they'd come for it. They knew exactly what they were going to do, and they were ruthless.
Absolutely. I agree with Chris there. If Ipswich play like that, they are bang in trouble. I mean, I do like Liam Delap. I think he's a really good player. Rich is saying one player doesn't make a team. That's true. It doesn't. But I think the problem is with Ipswich, I said this in the preview, I think without the goal scorer, without the finisher, because they did create a couple of chances in the first half. The Barker makes that save. Schmodix was looking a bit lively, a bit busy. But I think without Delap there to take the chances and do something. That's the reason they've been in games, I think, for a lot this season, was because they had an outlet through a final ball in the shape of Delap to try and, cause a threat at the other end of the pitch. But because he wasn't there was just nothing there at all. It was like a sentence about a full stop, as I said in the post-match. And I think because we hit them so hard and so fast, and they were a goal down, which was a brilliant strike, by the way, of Alexander Isak into the ground and then the roof of the net. What a finish. Any young strikers watching how to finish, just look at Alexander Isak, and some unbelievable stats about him in the second mark. But I think because we hit them so quick like that, they just didn't know what the fuck happened to them. And the confidence grew with Newcastle, from that particular moment. As well as you say, there was big holes on the left-hand side with Leif Davies, great going forward. Didn't really get a lot of support from his front man either, his winger. And we just doubled up on him. Tino and Murphy on that side, just totally overloading the right-hand side. Hall was composed as normal. Just seems to be the normal for Lewis Hall these days. Some really good defensive work too. That header he flicked out as well, I think, in the first half as well. But when Newcastle are coming from a really good performance, like they did against Brentford, like they did against Leicester, and they go into that game and they get a goal that quick, you do worry about the team that we're playing, unless that team happens to be something like, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, or something like that, where they've got quality, where they know they can just press reset, go again, and stick to their game plan. A team like Ipswich, and I said this in the post-match, and I do feel sorry for the promoted sides, because the Premier League has stitched it up so bad that these teams cannot really survive, because unless they throw money out like Forest did, and then they end up getting fined and dock points in the end because of all the players they've signed, they really struggle to sign enough quality to keep themselves in the league. Gone are the days when, they'd sign fucking Fanini George and people like that, Ipswich Town, do you know what I mean? Back in those days. Gone are those days when they can sign those players to keep them in the Premier League and have a fighting chance against informed teams with international class players like they came up against at the weekend. So, woe betide the championship clubs that are going to come up next season, because it's hard for the market, it really is. But listen, we're not here to talk about Ipswich Town's problems. We're here to talk about Newcastle United's superiority, and one man in particular, Mark. I mean, the first goal is absolutely brilliant. The second goal again is a massive mistake by Ipswich, and he puts the keeper on his arse. And the third goal, just a lovely bit of quick feet from Jacob Murphy, which we're going to talk about in a second. Just a filthy back heel that belonged on Pornhub, really. I think it was that dirty. But talking about Alexander Isak in particular, so this has been doing the rounds. Alexander Isak now has 41 Premier League goals. He's done it in one game less than Les Ferdinand, who was absolutely amazing for Newcastle United. Big shout out, UFC updates for this slide as well. Shola Ameobi's stats are shocking, by the way. Just as a little sidebar there. That's absolutely honking that. That's nearly as bad as a centre-half, I think, in a career. But anyway, it's not about Shola. But I think out of all them strikers, the only striker with a better goal-to-game ratio is Andy Cole. And Andy Cole was unbelievable at Newcastle. He couldn't miss. But Alexander Isak is 6th in the all-time Premier League goal scoring. He's done it in like 30-odd games less than Callum Wilson as well. I mean, if he stays, Mark, I mean, the sky's the limit. And also, just as a caveat on that as well, somebody put a stat out there as well at the weekend, which was all to do with Isak and Henry. They love this comparison, do the Arsenal fans in particular. But wait till you hear this. So the first 67 Premier League games, so Alexander Isak's got 41 goals. Thierry Henry only had 36 in his first 67 games, and that was for an Arsenal team. And they were both 22 years old when they came into this league. I mean, if Alexander Isak stays for another 3-4 seasons, Mark, and avoids injury, I mean, how many goals is this kid going to get for us, man? Unbelievable.
I mean, his goal to game ratio is ridiculous. At the moment, it's only bettered by Haaland over the last couple of seasons.
I think so, yeah.
So he's found another rich vein of form. Again, he's got over his niggles and his injuries, and hopefully, for him that continues. And he could just go on and score an absolute bucket load. And I mean, is she too early to be talking about Shearer's record at this point?
Shearer's record.
But you think if he's
get with Shearer?
But go back to that image again. You look at that and you think, well, he's over a quarter of the way there already. So if he plays another 4 or 5 seasons at Newcastle, you know, he's going to be knocking on the door of that Premier League goals sort of number for Newcastle. At least, no, he's not the 206 Premier League goals. He's not.
He won't stay that long, sadly. Not to sound too cynical, he won't stay that long. I don't think.
But 140 odd is achievable. I mean, maybe he's not realistic to start talking about that now, and maybe that's a little bit of the Christmas cheer getting to us a little bit,
or your drugs,
or the drugs that have kicked in. And thanks, Chipaz, for the message in the thing about us looking like a zombie. I do feel a little bit like a zombie. I'll be honest with you.
He's never looked better, Chipaz. He's never looked better. To be fair, mate. I think this is the best he's looked in a good couple of years now, mate.
Don't get back off.
It's Monday night. You've always got to be laughing on Monday night. Come on.
But but yeah, I mean, he just the first goal he takes really, really well. I mean, frustratingly, he probably should have 5 because he gets that one-on-one where he hits it straight at the keeper. He then has the second one, which is about as easy as a tap-in as you'll get. I mean, huge amount of props to Bruno for that one because
high press.
He sees that from the halfway line and presses forward. And the great thing about it is about that, about the way that Newcastle is set up with Tonali at that base. It allows Bruno to be able to do that, and he's so much better in that position further forward, where he's much more dangerous, but he's also able to press a lot more from there too. So. Huge amounts of praise for that. And the third goal, I mean, he sorts his feet out so well because he's in such a tight spot and manages to sort of just flick that into the corner. It's brilliant forward play, and it is absolutely sort of what we've come to expect from him.
Absolutely. I mean, the cynic in me says no European football next season, no Alexander Isak, which is probably most likely. You know, not only, if he keeps playing like he is, not only will he attract attention from other people, because, I think he is the second best striker in the Premier League behind Haaland when Haaland's at it. But if you look at Haaland when the team isn't delivering, like now with City, more on City in a minute, my word, that is like the Titanic going down. The only difference is DiCaprio isn't hanging off the front. Pep Guardiola is. But when Haaland's team aren't giving him the ball, he goes missing in games. He's pretty much not there. He disappears like Marty McFly in the fucking photograph. Whereas Isak will drop deep. He'll get the ball. He'll drop a shoulder. He'll skip round people. He'll make something out of nothing. And Haaland doesn't possess that quality. Doesn't possess that skill. Isak is a better all-around footballer. And for me, I'm not sound hysterical, but when the lad's fit and when he's firing, and he has had injury problems here. Let's get that right. But when he's fit and firing. For me, I think right now, in terms of centre forwards, I think he's got to be certainly in the top 10 in the world right now. If you think Lewandowski's aging out and Mbappe's had a bit of an iffy spell at Real Madrid to start with, he started scoring goals again now, but when Isak's fully fit and at it, he's got to be in the top 10 strikers for me, absolutely. In terms of delivering as well, Marcus has delivered tonight. He's gifted 10 Evermore memberships. Thank you, Marcus. You generous man. Who needs Santa Claus when you're in the house, Bonnie lad? But yeah, I mean, going Isak, Mark, I think, this is one of Isak gets like this. He takes 2 or 3 games to rev up, doesn't he? And then he just turns into this absolute fucking machine, and he just doesn't seem to miss. He just goal after goal after goal. Like you say, he should have had 5 goals, but the hat-trick now he's got the monkey off his back with that. I think there'll be another hat-trick or 2 potentially even this season, but we've got Villa next, and he loves a goal against Villa as well. He's had goals against them before, and it's obviously at home as well. His back's up, his chest's out. He's feeling fit. He's looking good. The team is giving him the ball as well in the right positions, and you wouldn't bat against Isak. Really pushing on now. I think is that his 9th goal this season? 10th? Is he in double figures yet for the Premier League? I don't know how many he's got this season.
Premier League.
Is it 9? His 9th goal, I think it was. Just double check that while I'm gassing. But yeah, he's not far off double figures. We're halfway through the season, and I think if 10. He can stay fit, 10 goals. If he can stay fit is the big if. If he can stay fit, and we have to manage his minutes, we have to have somebody else to step in and take that load off of him as well, which is obviously an issue for the transfer market. Certainly, with some of the talk about Callum Wilson's contract, which we'll come on to, maybe even do a separate video on that as well. But I think if Isak can stay fit and play like that, mate, 20 goals are definitely on the cards from this season if he can do that. And that's back-to-back seasons. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt there. I mean, he's got, what is it, 6 in his last 5 games. The only one where he didn't score was the cup game against Brentford in that little spell. You're right. He hits those patches of form, doesn't he? And he just looks so dangerous. The confidence kicks in, and he's otherworldly.
There's no striker in the league can do what he does. No striker can play like that.
No, look, I think you're absolutely right. I think at the moment, Haaland is so wildly off form, but that's a result of him not being given any chances by his team. And we've said before, he's just not a good footballer. Roy Keane said that he's not a footballer. He's a sensation in front of goal if you give him the chances, but he cannot play football. He's awful. The only one I think that's gets even comparable this season is probably Duran at Villa. Ironically, with them playing on Boxing Day, because of the way he's sort of transformed this season. But there's no other. I don't think there's another player like him in the league. That good ability with his feet. He's quick, very, very skillful. He moves so well. He's not bad in the air. He could be better. I think some of the chances that he gets on his head sometimes do let him down. He does score some good headers, but he's just phenomenal. Like, it's difficult to kind of talk about without just gushing praise at him half the time, because he is just brilliant. But you want, how to kind of say, you want more. But the weekend, you kind of want those one-on-ones where you go, well, you should be scoring that one that he just clips up into Boric's midriff is just that he's got to be burying those chances as well. But he can't really complain too much if he goes and bags himself a hat-trick.
We can and we will. That's all right. As football fans.
Yeah, football fans.
Of course. But no, listen, I definitely agree with some of the comments there. He's the best striker we've had since Shearer. He's probably the most feared striker we've had since Shearer. I mean, Callum Wilson's a very good Premier League striker. Obviously his body's breaking down on him now, but Callum Wilson is a dangerous centre forward. People are worried about what Wilson can do when he's fit and he's on the pitch. But Isak'S that next level of threat, that danger. He carries that kind of real concern, in terms of fucking hell, they've got a player like that. Shit, what we're going to do. Like when we used to have Shearer, even when we had shit teams, they're always like, fucking hell, Shearer's on the pitch. Shit, watch out. He can score one from 30 yards. You can hit one off his face and go in, all these different types of goals. We haven't really had a centre forward like that. We had little spells when Cisse first came. He just couldn't miss. He was scoring worldies week in, week out. Denver Bar for a little bit, but it never lasted. Like Shearer did. Like Ferdinand did. Like Cole did. Even Carroll when he promoted, he was only there for half a season. But Alexander Isak's just something special, something a level above all of those players, and he's the closest thing I think we've had to a genuine striker that scares the shit out of centre halves like Alan Shearer used to. But the big one for me, not to sound too negative about the whole situation, because yes, the team's doing well, yes, we're buzzing, yes, everything else. I think Trevor made reference before the video I did the other day about what the hell is going on upstairs. Now, the big question for me, now European football has to be a must this season. No matter what shape it comes. Champions League ideally to keep a player like Isak, but I think if we got Europa, I think you would probably give it another season to see if we get back in the Champions League. But the ambition of this football club under this new ownership will be tested massively if they can keep a hold of a player like Alexander Isak, because make no mistake about it, that's the kid you build the team around. He's the focal point. He's the goal scorer. He's the superstar. Yes, Bruno Guimaraes is a smashing player. Sandro Tonali's great. Botman's great. We need a new goalkeeper, in my opinion. I think you agree with me on that one, Mark.
Yeah.
But the spine of that team, Lewis Hall and Tino look great. But the one player out of all of them that this team has to keep and evolve around is Alexander Isak, in my opinion.
The question would be straight off of that is, how do you replace him?
You can't.
And I mean, when you look at the way that the market is for the number of goals that you get from him, I mean, what was it? 65 million is a steal. You're not going to find another Alexander Isak for 65 million. He would cost to buy out of Newcastle double that. I mean, it's daft money, but that's what he's going to be worth. He's going to be worth 130, 140 million, just purely and simply on the fact that he will guarantee your side goals. But then the problem is if he was to move on, that you, in terms of replacement, you can't replace those goals on the cheap. You can't replace them. You probably can't replace them for the amount of money you paid for them in the first place, because it just doesn't exist, and then the market has moved beyond that. You're right. If European football is an absolute must in that regard, I think if there's no European football, there will be a number that will move, would then move on, because they're getting to that stage in their careers where at 26, 27, they're now wanting to hit the big time in the peak of their career. Isak'S 25? He'll be 26 next season. You got European football, yes. I think Europa League, even Europa Conference, I think he probably would be enough to maybe stick around. And then it has to be target the big one, because he's going to want to be playing at the highest level week in, week out. Beyond when he's getting to 26, 27. So the way that the club now progresses has to match that, but they also have to focus on the fact that he's going to be the key part of it. And the other parts then have to come in and be built around him and to make sure that they keep him in that number 9 position.
Absolutely. I'll just take that question there from Dean. Do you think he would benefit for some weight training? I'm not sure he needs that, Dean, because he's maybe a little bit, because Henry was similar when he first came to the league. He was quite skinny and slight, and he did bulk up a little bit more to get a bit more of a body strength, and it didn't affect his speed a great deal. I would just worry. I don't want Isak to slow down with his speed. Same with Anthony Gordon. They're kind of built like whippets, aren't they? There's not much on them. And because of that, he can kind of wriggle through players rather than smash into them. But I see what you're saying, because Henry did something very, very similar, didn't he, Mark? When he beefed up a little bit more in the coming seasons. I mean, that season, where they were the kind of unbeatables. He was unbelievable, Henry. There was people just bouncing off him like he was fucking Jonah Lomo or something. His shoulders were broad as anything, but he was still light and quick. So, what do you think? Do you think Isak needs to hit the weights a little bit, mate?
Not too much, and you're right. I think that the worry would be in doing something like that, you can affect speed, and that nimbleness that he has, that ability to burst, and to carry the ball as well as he does. You can lose with, if you bulk out a little bit, and you might increase your overall speed. But actually, your ability to move, that glide that he has, because he doesn't run, he floats across the field at times. He does, and he manages to get himself in and out of positions that he really shouldn't be able to do. And I think if he was to put on some bulk, I'm not sure he would probably be able to maintain that. But I think he probably does need a little bit of work.
Absolutely. I mean, just some of the performances as well, because I knew we were going to wax lyrically about Alexander Isak. Bruno was brilliant in the 8 again, really getting involved, pressing high, winning the ball back, obviously looking to get on the end of things, goals. That little header that he had, I think, with that lovely move where the cross came in from Lewis Hall, he had a header and smashed it off the post. That was excellent play. Bruno looks a much better player in that advanced number 8, and I think him and Sandro together, our partnership is just getting better and better and better. We didn't miss Joe Linton's strength in this game because we didn't need it, but I thought Joe Willock was poor. But just as a little sidebar, me and Mark talked about this before it came on. Chris has read my mind here. It was great to see Louis Miley on the bench, and even better to see him come on for Bruno. And we said this in the post-match. The best compliment you could give Louis Miley was he didn't miss Bruno when he came on. But just before we came on, Mark, obviously I had a look on SofaScore. So dig a bit of this. Louis Miley come on, 10 minutes he played, touched the ball 17 times. He passed the ball 15 times and he got 15 of his passes accurate, so 100% passing accuracy, including an absolutely sexy as fuck dink to the back stick that just looked effortless from the kid. And then Sean Longstaff tried something similar and like kicked it off a player's chin, and then they hit him in the face or something like that shortly afterwards. So that was a slight little reminder as to how much better on the ball Louis Miley was than Sean. No offense, Sean. But Louis Miley, come on. That little cameo, we've all been screaming for it. Come on, Mark. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. You know, he looks like an athlete. You know, he wanted the ball. Again, he was so composed and calm. And you can tell with Louis Miley, I think a lot of the journalists have looked at him in the reserve games and stuff like that. And Eddie's been asked about Louis in the press conference. And he came out and he said some really interesting things in the press conference before. And he just said how, you know, I think one of the journalists said, is he a better player now than he was last year? And how answered it quite well and said, I'll be surprised if he's not. And he said, but he has filled out because he's gone from 17 to 18. He's basically gone from boy to man. But just a little bit on Louis Miley's cameo, Mark. I thought really encouraging that for me. Really encouraging.
Yeah, it was funny because I know you messaged sort of during the game and said you were disappointed he hadn't come on earlier. And I'm looking at the game thinking it's absolutely teaming it down. And sort of thought, well, it's safer for him to not come on given the conditions and the fact that he's not
a fucking mogwai, Mark. He's getting wet. I know he's got like 19 brothers or something. Right?
but if you're bringing somebody back from injury into conditions like that, where it's a little bit, it is soaking wet and the pitch is starting to get
one late tackle, he could do him in. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly. So I sort of half understand when he came on. He just looked and went, no worries of that. He was exceptional again, and Brilliant. He doesn't look like he's missed a beat, does he?
No, he doesn't. And Phil's right there. Miley's the best prospect we've had for years. He's such an accomplished player. He reminds him of Stevie Gerrard. I mean, my God, if he's half the player he is, Phil. I mean, I remember Steven Gerrard breaking through as a young lad, and just I think one of the first things I saw Steven Gerrard do, I think it was against Coventry or something. He just smashed into like a seasoned professional within like 10 minutes of being on the pitch, and you thought, holy shit. Who the hell's that kid? You know, and then he scored a goal, I think, the week after, and it was an absolute snorter from 25 yards, which was a sign of things to come. But you're right. I think Louis Miley is such an exciting prospect. And there was a question there before about will Sean get sold in January? Now, I never thought he would sell Sean previously, but I just think everything seems to be lining up for this, Mark. You know, it's 100% profit. You know, Sean's down the pecking order anyway because of Sandro and Bruno in that midfield. The only reason that Sean wouldn't get sold, I think, is if Bruno was to go, because then obviously they would keep Sean as a more experienced member of the midfield. But I just think that, you know, they're managing Louis Miley really well. I will give that to Eddie because the kid's so talented. They didn't want to give him the game time that he had last year, and he had way too much game time last year as a young lad. But that's probably why he got the niggles and the knocks potentially, because he went from playing, you know, under 23 football where he was probably head and shoulders the best player in the park and nobody could get near him, to playing against, you know, international class players at the Parc des Princes or Trafford and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It was a total jump up, but the lad took it in his stride, but I think it maybe took a bit of wear and tear on him. So I think Howe and Tyndall are really conscientious about putting Miley through too much and having those injuries reoccur. But I really do think, Mark, that this kid is here to stay for a long time. And I think there's a big plan for him behind the scenes. And again, it leads me to think that maybe Sean might go in January just to try and get more game time, because Sean's 27 now. He's in his peak years. Doesn't want to be third or fourth choice midfield. And then he sees this kid coming up behind him. And that was something interesting that Howe said. He said that because the journalist asked whether the senior pros put their arm around Louis Miley, and he said, no, they don't need to. He said he's that grown up and that kind of switched on. They treat him like a pro. And he said, not to mention, he's snapping at their heels. And I thought, it's the first time I've heard him say that about Louis Miley. He's snapping at their heels. And I thought, there's definitely some thoughts behind the scenes, I think, about changing maybe Louis Miley's involvement in the squad, I think, from previous.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we sort of talked about it last year, didn't we, where I think the amount of game time was never going to, it couldn't continue really, because he would, at that age, you overplay and you end up breaking down. We've seen it.
Look at Michael Owen. They shouldn't have played Michael Owen as much as they did at that age, and they wrecked him, really, even though he was class. So
exactly. So, you know, the precedent's there for young players to not play as much, but there has to be work and development with him in and around the first team, because he's good enough. We've seen that on multiple occasions, just how good he can be. And I think it's right. I think, look, maybe you don't want them putting an arm around him and treating him like the young kid, because actually he's as good, if not better, than the ones ahead of him anyway at the moment. And you want him to be as an equal in that regard, rather than sort of being kept along by the more senior players. But he's definitely got a huge future. He's so exciting as a footballer, and I think it'd be interesting now to see what he's developed into. Now he has put a little bit of beef on, and he will change his style slightly, and just how that goes on, because the next couple of years for him could be a huge jump in the amount of game time that he has, but also the increase in quality that he could have. And as he matures as a player and as a man, then that game matures with him, and the sky's the limit. I mean, it really is. And I know that there were always question marks about that lack of maybe a little bit of pace and things like that for him, but he thinks so quickly.
Don't need it when you've got that, mate. You I don't buy that. That's a modern day argument of football. I don't understand. I mean, Dean's hitting nail on the head there. His passing's one thing, but what makes him stand out is the way he takes the ball in the half turn to give himself time. And you're totally right, Dean. That's the kind of thing that but it's the kind of thing that Phil Foden does, and players like that. And this kid is absolutely fucking class. As Trevor says there, you can't teach it. You saw Gaza when he was coming through in '85, and everyone was gobsmacked. And his late dad said he's going to be a star, no problem. And I don't understand a lot of these fans who are writing off Louis Miley. I can't get my head around that. I really can't, because I just see an absolutely brilliant player that I think is going to be something really special for Newcastle United. But we've got a spoiler riches really in midfield. The one player who's disappointing me, I think, at the minute is Joe Willock. I mean, I said this in the post-match. I don't think he really got in the game too much. Everyone else, I mean, look at the Sofa score there, and his score is kind of way down for everybody else in the park, really. And I don't think he really got in the game too much, really. I mean, his passing accuracy-wise, he was on 73%. I know even Longstaff was 91 when he come on. And yes, we were 4-0 up, we had the ball then. But, Joe Willock hasn't looked the same player for a long time. There's been little sparks, little moments. But, he takes a shot again and he goes down holding some part of his body, moaning he's hurt again, and you just think, oh, for fuck's sake, how many more times are we going to see this from Joe Willock? And I look at that team, and there is positions that need upgraded. Yes, we know about right winger, and yes, we know about the right centre half. But I look at what Joe Willock brings to that team. You've got Joe Linton's energy and everything else that he brings in. When he's out injured, because he's prone to an injury, then Joe Willock comes in. But at the minute, Joe Willock, looks like he's made a fucking tracing paper. You know what I mean? The slightest little knock and he's limping, or he's wincing, or he's holding something, and and he doesn't take his chances, Chippers, you're right. But for me, Mark, I'm not sure people would buy Willock, but I'd be akin to sell him, if not January in the summer, because I think he's going backwards as a player. I really do. I know he had that moment when he came back, but what is he offering this midfield now? You look at what we've got there and the other players that are around it. Could we get better than Willock?
I think in terms of what he's being asked to do is change massively, even from 2 seasons ago. I'll give him some points, and the one for the weekend where he took a shot and ended up on the floor is when he put his foot down. He landed on the Ipswich player's leg and slid his ankle on it. So I'll give him a little bit of credit for that one. But he should have scored when he went through. I mean, he misses the goal by about 10 yards high. And he should be burying that. But it is difficult to kind of see.
Much as well. He's not passing enough. He's shooting all the time.
But he's not a passer. He's not, and this is what you get with Joe Willock. He's not a passer of the ball. He's a carrier of the ball. He is going to be an attacking threat. He is going to get into those areas to shoot. He's not a ball player. He's not a Miley, a Bruno, a Tonali. So you have to adapt what tactics you have around him when he's in the side. And I think he did okay at the weekend. I think he plays that higher midfield sort of really, really well.
Excellent, Ramadan. Excellent.
Good spot.
I've been called worse, mate. I've been called worse.
But yeah, you have to adapt to what he does. But he, like I say, I think he did that well. He plays that link and he allows the side to get further forward and not have Isak as isolated. And that's part of the problem he's had for an awful lot of the time is when he does go quiet is the fact that there's a huge gap between himself and the rest of the players. So Willock getting in and around and causing more headaches for the defenders as well can't be overlooked because they've all of a sudden got to worry about him as well as Alexander Isak. Gannin and Ty. So like he's never going to be the 90% pass and he's not going to have 3 key passes and that sort of stats, but it's what else he offers. But I think he has to start contributing in other ways. He's definitely got to start scoring goals. If he's getting into those positions where he is one-on-one and he's getting through to the edge of the box, he has to start hitting the target.
But I think when you're looking at upgrading this squad, I think Joe Willock right now, I think is one of those endangered players because I just think he's not been fit enough. The injuries are coming way too frequently and his impact is lacking on the pitch. But one player whose impact is not lacking on the pitch, segue, is Jacob Murphy. Now, this is Mark's idea of a headline, everybody. I haven't suddenly changed my mind on Jacob Murphy. Mark thought this would be funny to put Lionel Murphy rather than obviously Lionel Messi. It must be the man flu. But I think, to be honest with you, the Jacob Murphy one's interesting because, he's 100% added balance to this team. There is no doubt about it. By having a right-footed player on the right-hand side of the park, who's given energy, who's given press, he's tracking back well defensively. He's offering a lot, offensively as well. I mean, he scored an absolute thunder bastard of a goal. The back healer, if Cole Palmer had done that, would be showed on replay week in, week out for the next God knows how many weeks of the season, really. So you've got to give it to Murphy. He's really delivered. But I feel he's delivered in games where you would expect Jacob Murphy to be way ahead of the players that he's up against. The Leicesters, the Ipswiches, no disrespect to those teams. You'd really expect Jacob Murphy to play better against those teams because he's kind of, for me, Jacob Murphy's he's not a championship player. He's not a top 6 Premier League player. He kind of sits somewhere in the grey. He sits somewhere in the middle. He has moments where he looks great and then moments where he looks crap, because he's an inconsistent player. At the moment, he looks great. As Chipper says there, Murphy's doing what we expect, but we need an upgrade. And that's exactly what I'm getting at, Mark. We still need to upgrade that position. There's loads and loads of stories, links to Bakayoko from PSV, who looks an unbelievable talent. He's a very young player still as well and got those levels to go up, but he already looks, pace, quality, goals, assists, can tuck inside, can go on the outside, looks a really, really good player. That's the kind of player we should be signing. And in many ways, right? In many ways, Jacob Murphy's kind of return to form or discovery of the ability to play football once again is great to have that, because if Bakayoko comes in as a young player, you can slowly bleed him into the team rather than just throwing him straight in going, fucking hell, we need a quality right winger. So you can kind of allow him that time to find his feet in the Premier League like we did with Bruno before. So, I'm all for keeping Jacob Murphy in the side because I think he deserves it at the minute. He's earned the shirt. But I don't think we should get carried away and think that Jacob Murphy is suddenly, Cristiano Ronaldo reborn in a black and white shirt, mate.
I mean, yeah, he's 29, so he's not going to massively improve, is he?
He's not finished. He's 29.
To be fair, the Lionel Murphy thing was more about the assist than it was anything else. He was very, very good. That assist.
It was filth, as Craig says. It was filthy, Craig. It was brilliant.
It was dirty. It was. I mean, the little jink inside, the then touch. To give him his props as well. Go back to the first half where he go to his goal. That little touch that he takes with his left foot to just set him up for the strike is brilliant. It's so subtle, but it just clears the space and gives him the ability to just throw his foot through the ball, and just takes it away from all the other players in and around him. It's very, very good. But that assist is just, I mean, it gets more and more ridiculous every time you look at it. He's in between four players, and he manages to back heel bounce it through to Isak to put in his third. He's been really good, and you're right. I'm not getting carried away. I don't think he's the second coming of Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, and it's telling that his last three games have been really, really good. You sort of the 2 assists against Brentford, 2 goals against Leicester, a goal and an assist against Ipswich. We're sort of seeing that, as you said, the level. I don't think he was. I mean, he should have had a couple of goals probably against Liverpool before that as well. But if you go to the previous games, he was pretty anonymous in the minutes he had against West Ham, Chelsea, Brighton, Everton. He's not, like I say, he's not going to play at that level all the time. But what he's done is he's given, as you put, great balance in these particular games. He's allowed others to flourish around him as well, because he's played that role really well. And I know I sort of mentioned before, Match of the Day touched on this very in their coverage. But that was Newcastle's. This was the heat map and the average positions for Saturday. I mean, it's pretty easy to see what Newcastle's idea was, which was pinpoint that left-hand side of Ipswich's defence. And Jacob Murphy was in behind, I think, 4 times in the first 20 minutes. His pace allows him to get in behind that, his ability to then get on the right foot. And funnily enough, I was just about to mention
way better option than Miggy at the minute, yeah.
That type of goal, that type of play doesn't happen with Almiron there.
No.
Because he can't, because he's not going to drive.
Doesn't look up for starters. Too busy looking at his fucking feet half the time.
He's not going to drive to the byline. He's not going to put the cross in. Look, Gordon's header that he really should score from. That's a ball over that channel again. He runs into the byline and puts a ball over with his right foot. Miggy's not going to do that. So instantly, in terms of a balance thing, that gives you that there, because you're going to get the ability to put the defender left or right, because he's quite comfortable coming inside too. Maybe he's not so good hot in his left foot when he's shooting, but he will do both. But yeah, he's not the second coming, but he's just done brilliantly over the last few games and deserves his credit, because, you know, of all the players that we've picked up for being good over the last few weeks, Isak, Tonali, Bruno, etc., Murphy stood up with them.
He deserves that praise. There's no doubt. He definitely deserves that praise. He has really stood up when he's needed to do. Super chat from Kevin Whalen there. Thank you very much, Kev. Really appreciate that, buddy. All the very best, lads. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for watching, mate, and thank you for your support as well. But I mean, he's in for a big test, I think, Murphy, on Boxing Day, which we will do, obviously, the preview and the post-match for as well. I'll probably be about 3 stone heavier by the time I do that post-match review. I think I might not fit on the screen. But, yeah, he's got a big test in that game, you know, because Luca Dean's a very decent left back. You know, Villa are a good side. You know, so we'll see what Murphy's like against one of those sides. You know, one of the sides that we're kind of fighting against, really, for top 5, top 4. You know, that's when we'll see what Murphy's about there in terms of doing it against better teams, you know, because those are the teams that really need him to step up and do it against. But you can't knock the lad for what he's done, you know, and he's definitely had to balance that side. And as I say, if we do sign a player in January, you know, I mean, there's a couple of names linked. There was Tomori and Bakayoko, real strong links with those two. And weirdly enough, this just shows you the tax, the bloody VAT of the Premier League. You could get them to, if the fees reported are correct, for 50 million quid. And Palace wanted 50 million for fucking Mark Guehi. So to me, if Newcastle are going down that route, and if that's the kind of thing Mitchell's doing, then I'm all for it, mate. I'm all for it, because you get them 2 in for 50 million. That's money well spent.
I can't. The Milan link with Tomori for 25 million seems unbelievable, because he's been really really good. Maybe he's dropped a little bit over recent time. But
pace reads the game well, Mark.
yeah,
on the ball, that's what we need.
Absolutely right. But if you're going to, I mean, if you look at what Parish wanted at the end of that, 70, 80 million, if you bring in Tomori for a third of that cost, then I'm sorry, but Tomori's the one that I'm going to go for any day of the week. If you can then use the rest of that 70 million that you had earmarked for one player to then go and pick up a Bakayoko and then another young centre forward or somewhere like that.
I've done it, Kev.
Oh dear, yes.
Scary
I hadn't even picked up, but yeah.
They wish they had podcasts as good as me. They wish they had YouTube channels as good as us. But yeah, you're right what you're saying, Mark. It's just, I think a player like that, he wants England football as well, and there's no reason why he can't push for it. And I think he's out of sight, out of mind at the moment, So I think coming to the Premier League would be good. There's links with Tonali as well, with the Milan links as well. So that would all be really good, So I think, yeah, for me, I think it'd be absolutely, absolute quality. Jim was saying it's a new Ali G look in it. Respect. Weeze Keys, Chris. Oh my days, honestly. I couldn't think of anything worse being one of them. But yeah, I think the January window is going to be very interesting. We're going to cover it, obviously, with loads of rumour videos and stuff like that we do. But I suppose going back to the question you asked earlier, Mark, is this a corner turn? I mean, it's a big question, really, because it was a big week for Newcastle. We all knew they had to stand up. We all knew they had to deliver, and they did deliver. They've won the games. And they've won them in style. They've bashed in loads of goals. They look organised. They've looked good. The big players have stood up and looked talented and look like they're up for it again. The manager seems to have maybe fixed some of the things that, for some reason, he didn't think needed to be fixed. Tonali in the 6 is the big thing. Jacob Murphy on the right is the other big thing. So as long as he sticks to this, because this is the problem. We played so well against Liverpool, and then he tore it up for no reason. Talking about players in the red zone. I don't know if that was Bunce or whatever, and then we lost the fucking game. So momentum seems to be with us now. That he seems to be almost settled with his side, which is exactly what we need, But Newcastle need to then go on and get another few results in, because we've got Villa, we've got Manchester United, and then obviously we've got the cup games as well. So a couple of hard fixtures coming. I think. After those hard fixes come, we'll see if we turn the corner. Super chat from Graham Ritchie. Merry Christmas, lads. All the best for 2025.
Thank you, mate. All the best to you.
Thank you for your superb point. Superb. I'm sounding like I'm Macam as well. Superb. Thanks for the superb. Yeah, in terms of turning a corner, just allow me to have a slight miniature rant here, if you don't mind. So what I don't like about this whole change in form, obviously I want Newcastle to do well. I want Newcastle to play well, win games. We're 1 point off Manchester City, who are in free fall, which is excellent. What I can't stand is these pedantic, patronising, condescending pricks like Luke Edwards throwing it down people's throats and deciding to, jump on his white steed of moralistic integrity and ride into battle for Sir Edward of Howe, because you dare to criticise whether, he's getting his team selections right or his tactics are right, It's every football fan's God-given fucking right to question a manager. There'll be City fans now questioning Pep Guardiola, arguably the greatest manager of all time, which we'll come on to in a minute now or soon. But you don't see Luke Edwards lambasting those guys. I can't stand this shit. I really can't. We had it in the post-match. People jumping and going, oh, where's only Eddie Howe out as now? Well, they might still be there, mate. The manager might be not doing something that they want to see as a fan. And that's absolutely fine. But I can't bear this. You win 3 games and people almost put you under a microscope and try and shame you. And he's a professional journalist, man. I know he's a panto journalist, and he likes to spend his time with, other Newcastle fan channels who aren't maybe as grammatically correct as we are. But, that's Luke Edwards, isn't it, to be fair? Do you know what I mean? But it just fucking winds me up, Mark. It really, really does. Oh, your sound's off. Your sound's off.
Sorry. I turned it off just in
case.
You
muted when you coughed your lungs out.
No. The question of is a corner turn, and we were highly critical of the way things were going a few weeks ago, and I think justifiably so, because form was awful. Results had been pretty poor. Performances on the field weren't going right. There had been some some pretty horrible
mediocre
selection. Yeah. Look, there was some good results in that. But when you go and you lose as poorly as really as they did against Chelsea and lost without really a whimper against Brighton and
win 3 very winnable games, as Andrew says there. That's it.
This is and this is the question, and that's why I put it in the description of this. Is it a quality? Is it just a huge confidence boost that 3 games, was it 11 goals, 1 conceded, but they're 2 very, very winnable games in terms of Leicester and Ipswich. And look, Leicester got absolutely thumped to the weekend as well off Wolves, who've been equally as poor. Ipswich have been okay. They've struggled to put results over the line. They've been pretty much in most of the games, but I think they were always due a game like this against one of the bigger sides where they did get tanked. And Newcastle, like I said earlier, were ruthless. And Brentford had made quite a few changes in that side. With Bueno didn't start. The likes of me came in and they didn't set up exactly as they did in the league game. So there are 3 games where you go, yes, Newcastle should win. Is it a corner turned? Maybe. Is this something that you can kind of take and move forward and then go into Villa, Man U? Is it Spurs the next one after the Premier League game?
Spurs after that as well? Yeah, cup games. So Chippers is right. Let's see where we are against Villa and Man U. Let's see where we're after that. Then before people start jumping on their steeds of moralistic integrity. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less from that bloke, to be fair. But
no.
Don't start digging people out for questioning the manager because we've won 3 winnable games. I mean, yes, we've won them in style, and you can only beat what's in front of you. But let's see what we do against Aston Villa, Man United, Spurs. And then if we slap them, then you can go fucking hell. I'm completely wrong. The manager's got this right. Yeah.
But it's all about the here and now, isn't it? Football fans are all a fickle bunch anyway.
That's football, though, mate. You're all about the game now. You're not about the game.
And you're only as good as your last result, really, and you're only as good as that current run of form that you're on. And I guess if at the moment, yes, great. What's your next 3 results going to be like? And we said that when you come into those 3 much more tricky. Well, Man, you might not be, but the next 3 set might be much more tricky. What's the state of play after that? Then is it Southampton? I'm trying to remember what the next one's after that. Southampton, Bournemouth, Wolves. Fulham.
Well, you're supposed to be the prepared one, but because you're not well, I'll let you off.
Something like that. Anyway, it might not be in that order, but I think those are the next
Villa, Man United, Spurs. Then we've got Arsenal in the cup. Then we've got Bromley. Then we've got Wolves. Then Bournemouth, Southampton. Finishes off January.
So right teams, wrong order. Fair enough.
By the way, just before you're pausing for breath, Marcus has gifted another 10 memberships. You absolute legend, Marcus. So thank you very much. And well done to whoever's got them. Thank you very much.
What's the next batch? If in 3 games' time it's still three more victories, then huge praise. If it's another 3 victories on the back of that, and all of a sudden it's 9 on the spin, fucking hell, yes, a huge corner turned at that point.
Chalky's right there, though. If we don't get Europe, he's gone. I generally think that's the target for the team this season, and I think if he doesn't get Europe, but if I'm brutally honest, Chalky, what I think is most likely to happen, and I know it's a big ask because we've got Arsenal, right? But we've had good performances against them in recent years. I think if we get to the Carabao Cup final, that's Europe more or less guaranteed, because the other team that gets there will have European football most likely. And I think, no, is that not the case? Do you have to? No, you don't get that.
The Carabao Cup final, you don't get the spot if they have it.
I fucking hate this league. I fucking hate this football organisation. What a bunch of arseholes. You get a cup final against one of the top 4 and you don't get a European space. What a load of shit, man.
It drops to the
They might as well
next
just scrap that entire fucking tournament. Is that only the FA Cup then? Is it that happens on? Only the FA Cup?
It doesn't even happen in the FA Cup anymore, I don't think.
Oh, George, you know what?
I think they stopped. Mate, I think they got rid of it based on the fact that you ended up with, was it Cardiff that got European football for losing the cup final? But yeah,
you hate these corrupt bastards and stuff. Burn in hell, every single motherfucking one of them. I fucking hate them. I really do. Because I was going to say that was our only route to Europe, you know. But if we win the cup, then we'll get into Europe. But you know, it's just been maybe slightly more difficult now because of arseholes and suits. Nuki saying the Botman returns. Absolutely, yeah, that's a massive thing that we haven't even touched upon. You know, there's rumours he could even be on the bench against Villa, which is amazing. Phil Mitchell pulls out a couple of massive stroke signs. Reckon we could get to win the cup and qualify for Champions League. I mean, that would be a hell of a season, Nuki. It really would. But yeah, I think the cup win for me has to be the one. I think where we've got to focus on that. I think we really, really do. Graham says you sound rough, Mark. Get yourself a hot toddy. A hot toddy. He wasn't going to come on, Graham, and I am waiting for him to tell me he's going to kill Sidney Prescott in a minute because he does sound a bit like the Scream Killer, to be brutally honest with you. I'm a little bit concerned about him. You know, he's going to ask you what your favorite scary movie is. What's your favorite Christmas movie? Everybody in the comments, actually, while we've got you. 94 of you in the chat. Tell us your favorite Christmas movie. And yes, we do accept Die Hard. Mark's t-shirt tells you that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Let us know what you think your favorite Christmas movie is. So let's move on to the final segment of the night, Mark. Our favorite one, Out of Toon. We talk about things that aren't really Newcastle United oriented. I've been looking forward to this one because Manchester United are in real trouble. And hookah to my veins, as somebody who grew up watching football in the 90s, I despise Manchester United. Sorry, Man U fans, I do. I did congratulate Alice Talks for getting 100k subscribers. She's brilliant, by the way. So massive congratulations to her. She is one of the good ones of that fan base, to be brutally honest with you. She talks about Newcastle very well as well. So I'd love to do a show with her if you ever watching Alice. Hit us up in the DMs. We'd love to do a show with you. But so it's all going off at Man United. So Marcus Rashford, the one-time star boy, wants out of the football club. He did actually say he's ready for a new challenge. I did think that the manager dealt with it really well because he turned it back on the press, but he said all of my players should be ready for a new challenge. You know, and that was quite clever how he did that. But it's pretty clear Marcus Rashford's time at Manchester United is gone, and it's very interesting because Marcus Rashford went from being somebody that was absolutely brilliant. You know, I mean, obviously what he did off the pitch is second to none. You know, I'm not going to criticize that. I don't think anybody should do, but on the pitch, you know, he went from being this real talented, you know, brilliant player who we thought was going to go levels and levels and levels, not just for Manchester United, but for England as well. And he's really tailed off. And I think his extracurricular activities have got the best of him. I think he's maybe, you know, not concentrating on the good side of football, you know, nutrition, looking after himself, his recovery, his recuperation. I asked the question, I think, a while ago as to whether, you know, he'd be a good signing for Newcastle. Could Eddie get anything out of him? I don't think Eddie would go near him with a 10-foot pole with the way he's been carrying on. But interesting enough, one of the Manchester United fans put this up on X, which is his stats. You are the stat man, Mark. Looking at that, that's not great stats, is it? For a superstar 325 grand a week player who's supposed to be, you know, your main man. I mean, they don't make great reading, mate, do they?
I mean, two seasons over 15 goals. You've got a handful, 1, 2, 3 over 20 goals and assists in what, 10 seasons, 9.5 seasons. I mean, for all the promise that Marcus Rashford has or had, it's never really kicked on again. I mean, that one, I guess, a couple of seasons ago, the 17 goals, 5 assists was really good in a side that they weren't very good then. But he seems to have been overtaken by other activities, doesn't he? And I'm not talking about the school meals thing either. There were something I read earlier on that says that there are rumors that he's caught out several times a week where he's instead of being mentally prepared for things, he's out and whatever at clubs and stuff like that. Or the other one I'd read was, is he gambling problem as well that potentially is. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but it sort of would explain an awful lot about why he's fallen completely off a cliff, because there's no real reason to see why he's just not performing, because he's got all the talent there. He really has. And maybe a complete change of stream will do him a world of good, because the kid was brilliant when he first came through for Man U and for England as well. He was exceptional.
Craig's right. Barnes has got better numbers, to be fair. Harvey Barnes has better
over the last few
numbers
years. Yeah. Look, it's sad, because for somebody who was such a bright, a huge prospect for English football, for England on an international level, it's quite sad to see, because he's just fallen so far down the pecking order in that regard.
1 second, Chippers. No, Deliverance is not a Christmas movie, mate. Sorry. I'm not sure you should be watching that with the kiddies on Christmas Day. Jesus Christ.
No.
Especially if your kids ate too much chocolate and he's a little bit on the plum side. Nobody wants to hear squeal like a piggy, fat boy, when you're trying to watch your Christmas eat your Christmas dinner, mate. Absolutely. But this might sound controversial, right? I actually think out of the two of them, and they could be staring on a barrel of losing both of these players, Greenwood and Rashford. I actually think Greenwood was a better player, but obviously because of the way he is off the pitch, that's why his career has gone away.
Stand-up human being, that kid, wouldn't he?
Yeah, exactly. An absolute lump of shit, allegedly, as we have to say to cover our ass, allegedly. But he's a better player. But look at the two of them. I mean, if that doesn't shout to the lack of discipline in the corridors of that football club, I don't know what does. When your 2-star academy lads turn into that, then something ain't right. Something ain't right at all. Yeah, you're right, Cushy. 18 million quid a year, no fucking way. If he's lucky, he'll end up at Paris Saint-Germain. If he's unlucky, he'll end up at some backwater La Liga club, and then he'll disappear from everybody's memory. But yeah, when you think it couldn't get worse for Manchester United, you're wrong. It does get worse, and that's why we're covering it, because I do enjoy it. Merry Christmas, Man United. So yeah, the press conference was called short. As Ruben Amorim's press conference, because of this. This was him doing his press conference. You can't really see it, but in the top right-hand corner there, the roof started to leak. We all know that Manchester United leak a few goals at the back, but the fucking stadium leaks water, and the press conference was called short because the water was pissing into the building. Very embarrassing for the new Manchester United manager and the club. And could it get worse, Mark? Could it get worse? Oh, yes, it could get worse.
It could.
Hang on. No. This has happened. So this is breaking news. This is enough for United Stand. This is Goldbridge's channel. And you can see Manchester United have been hit with the infestation of mice at Old Trafford. Droppings were discovered on a recent visit by the hygiene inspectors, and the club have been given a 2-star rating. The inspectors found evidence of mice activity in the ground level corporate suites in the kiosks that sells food to fans as well. I mean, I just thought it was only Bruno Fernandes was the only rat at Old Trafford, mate, but apparently there's mice in there as well. Brilliant. That club is crumbling at the seams, mate, and I'm here for it.
I was only going to say that I always thought Bruno was taller than that, but funnily enough, and Chippers has put in the comment I was going to make about the water coming through the ceiling. It's all the tears coming through from the comment.
Oh, yes.
I said it was the tears from Sir Jim Twatcliffe.
Yeah, I said it was him pissing his pants, realising he's completely fucked and he can't spend his way out of something that's a dumpster fire. That's what I said when Ashworth went there. It's a dumpster fire, and then Ashworth is gone now because he's probably realised it's a dumpster fire, kicked off, and then him and Twatcliffe have fell out. So absolutely brilliant. The theatre of leaks, The Rock says. Superb. And Chipper says Jim will fix it, though, apparently. Yeah, apparently. So when he gets the taxpayer to pay for a new stadium because that one has fallen to pieces, yes. So good luck with that, Jim.
They need a Jim will fix it badge on Jim Ratcliffe now next to the stadium leaking. That's a great image.
Oh, absolutely. Someone will do that. Somebody will knock that at me. But yeah, so Manchester United are having a mare, and the other side of Manchester aren't particularly faring very well either. But the sad thing is, I feel sorry for this bloke. So this was poor Pep. I'm really starting to feel for Pep, but I'm actually starting to think as well, Mark, that he could walk from this job. And I'll tell you why I think this in a minute. Even the Manchester press are starting to think this. So this was Pep's face when it was 1-0 to Aston Villa. I think Villa won 2-1 in the end, didn't they? And obviously they lost another game. That's that 9th defeat in 12, I think it is. They've slipped to 7th in the Premier League, which you can see from here. If you squint really hard, you'll see it. So you can see they're only a point above us in the table. They've completely fell off a cliff. I mean, bloody hell, Bournemouth and Forest are ahead of them. You know, that just shows you how bad Manchester City have been this season. No disrespect to those teams. We never thought we'd see them above Man City this far into a Premier League halfway through, pretty much. And they're having an absolute stinker, really. And the reason I think Pep may walk is there's a lot of similarities here between when he walked at Barca, when he's saying things like, you know, I'm not good enough, or I'm struggling to motivate the team, is what he said when he walked at Barca. And a lot of the things that he's saying now are very similar to what he said at Barca. I'm going to make a prediction here, Mark. I think Guardiola walks, if not at the end of the season, before it. Because I think if he doesn't turn this around soon, I think he's walking.
I was amazed at, to be honest, I was amazed that he signed a new contract, because I thought he'd kind of reached that length of time. And he's right. He's the longest he's been at any club. And I think
it's starting to come back now, where
I think gone are the days of a manager being at a club for 20 years. I don't think that's ever going to be like that ever again. It's just not the way modern football works. And managers, as anybody, they burn out. And I think Pep looks completely and utterly shattered. And you touch on the Premier League table there. That's the form sort of table since the 29th of October. And City are rock bottom of it. And it's just incredible to look at that and be like, well, Jesus Christ. I mean, how is a side that is steamrolled the league so many years on the bounce, and, you know, Champions League winners and beating all comers, and to be one winning, well, I mean, it's one win in 11 now, or 12 in all competitions, one win in 8 in the league. It's unbelievable. The way that they've completely fallen off. I genuinely, nobody saw it coming.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's as Marcus says there, he'll go to another club with big promise. I'm not sure he'll go to another club. I think he might have a little bit of a break from football. I think, because he just looks like he's not enjoying it really anymore. He looks like he's really getting to him. It's bringing him down. You know, he hasn't got the same kind of, dare I say, a pep in his step. You know what I mean? He's just not that kind of man anymore, you know. And football can do it. It can take chunks out of you, you know. And I think he's really having a difficult time. Somebody else is having a difficult time at Manchester City. He's Jack Grealish. He's not having a great time of it. I saw a stat of the day. I don't think he's actually scored a goal for nearly a year now. I think it is Jack Grealish. But obviously he was up against his old team, Aston Villa, where he's been, you know, praised massively. He's always had a great affinity with the Villa fans, even when he left. And he kind of lost his head a little bit after the game, did Jack Grealish, where he was getting some pelters, I think, from the Villa fans, which is what happens in football. You know, most of the Villa fans would probably like Jack and know that 100 million that they got from selling them was reinvested in the squad and bought the kind of players they've got now. Ironically, Rodgers, who was at the Manchester City Academy, they let go another one like Cole Palmer. Well done, lads. Scoring the winning goal, I think it was. But Jack Grealish decided to go and mug off the Villa fans a bit here by sticking 3 fingers up at the 3 Premier League titles that he's won. It's not gone down very well. A lot of the Villa fans have kind of completely gone nuts at him in the socials, you know, because all of that nice goodwill between Jack Grealish and Villa looks like it's drifted away. But and for a lad who's maybe going to be looking for a new club soon, he doesn't want to burn them bridges, Mark, does he?
There were an awful lot of rumours flying around that he could find his way back there, either this season,
maybe not now,
next season. I can't see that happening at all.
No,
you're right. I think his last goal might have been December of 2020, like mid-December 2023.
I think it was. So, someone said it was 365 days ago. I think it was, which is not good. It's not good.
No, and if you watch the highlights of the game as well, he did shoot at the weekend and hit it for a throw-in, which was just pretty hilarious. But look, he got pelters off the fans. players returning to their previous club tend to do. Ones that have done really well for their clubs tend to get a little bit of a break. They get a good reception. But look, it's... I guess as a fan, if you're going to give it, you have to take it. But there's got to be an awareness of you as a player going to a club that was your boyhood club and a side you played God knows how many games for, and it's just odd. It's an odd way to react to that. I mean, I'm trying to think of a Newcastle comparison. Is that the kind of an Andy Carroll going back and suddenly giving the big guns that he won an FA Cup and do you know what I mean?
Possibly.
I can't see that happening. Do you know what I mean? I don't think there would be that level of... First off, I don't think there would be that level of hatred that would go, or that level of abuse that would go the other way.
Well, I think Grealish, that's the sign of Grealish's frustrations. I think that he's reacted that way because he knows he's having a bad time of it. As Dean says there, I think Pep's took him backwards as a player. You know, when he was in that free role at Villa, you know, he was dangerous as out. He was one of the best players in the league. He could pick up pockets of space. He could thread through balls. He could score goals. He could create. You know, and I don't think he was the right. I don't think City was the right move for him. I don't think he was the right player for City. And sometimes that happens. I mean, look at Pep Guardiola's career has been outstanding. You know, one of the arguably the best players of this generation, he just didn't get, and it didn't work, which was Zlatan Ibrahimovic at Barcelona. You know, so, you know, I'm not saying Grealish is as good as Zlatan, by the way, but what I'm saying is Pep doesn't,
quite a stretch.
Pep doesn't always get it right with players. And I think Grealish is one of those players. He's not got it right with them. Yes, they've won leagues, because they were dominant as a team, not because Jack Grealish was dominant as a player. The Jack Grealish Aston Villa would run rings around the Jack Grealish at Manchester City, absolutely. And Kev said that Foden's going backwards as well. Something's not right with Foden either. That's really worrying what's happening with Foden. And is he believing his own hype? Possibly, I don't know. You know, it's a tricky one.
I think an awful lot of that is to do with the form of the club. I think an awful lot of those players are not performing at a level that they've been at is because there are too many of them that have just fallen off. The likes of Walker, Stones, De Bruyne has been nowhere near since his injury. Haaland's way off because they're not creating chances for him. But
Götze's another one. There's Götze, Brian got it wrong with him as well. Yeah. Couldn't work him either.
But I think the problem that Pep has in terms of his wingers, especially, is just he doesn't know how to use wingers as wingers, and if you go back and Mahrez was maybe an exception because he was an exceptional footballer, but even he took a good while to get used to the way that sort of Pep wanted him to play. And I just think if you have a player like Jack and a player like Doku as well, you allow them
He's not using either one of them, right?
No, you've got to allow them that creative freedom to go and just do something that you're not expecting. It's kind of like trying to play. If I would throw St. Maximin into that, you know how unpredictable Alan St. Maximin was. You put him into a Pep side, and he's all of a sudden he has to stop and then play back, and then you want him running, you want him getting beyond the fullback and taking on the fullback to create chances and putting things across the box. You don't want to have to stop and turn.
Craig's bang on there about the system. He's absolutely bang on. There is no freedom either in Pep's system. So just a quick question we got from Phil there before moving on to the next one. What keeper could we realistically sign to improve on Pope or Dubs in January or summer? Kelleher for me from Liverpool. I'd go for Kelleher. I think he'd be a great signing. I think he's too good to be a reserve goalkeeper. I think with Mamardashvili coming in, that'll do for me. Mark is a resident keeper. Who would you go for?
I mean, Kelleher, I think, has been exceptional when he's come in for Alisson. And the fact that they then have Mamardashvili as well, is he going to, even if Alisson was to move on in the summer,
Chris has got your allergy.
Chris. I'm sorry if I've just passed it on everywhere. Is Kelleher going to want to sit around and be a number two again behind Mamardashvili or
nope?
I can't see that, and he's been very good. look, the mistake against Newcastle was a one-off, really, because we haven't seen any mistakes from him like that. And goalkeepers are, they all make a mistake now and again. And he misjudged the flight of one ball, and it's cost them. But he's been exceptional. He's good with his feet. He's a great shot stopper. He commands the box pretty well. I think he's an ideal signing in that regard. And that's, with that one, there's probably a few more if you go further afield. But I think as somebody who has Premier League experience and understands what the league wants and the way that the teams are playing, yeah, absolutely. I think he's got to be up there.
Yeah, well, speaking of keepers, it's not an easy life being a goalkeeper, as you very well know, Mark. And that takes us on to our next Out of Toon. Now, we'll warn you in advance, anybody, if you have a bit of a squeamish stomach, you might want to look away at these next couple of slides. So PSG were playing Monaco in Ligue 1 the other day, and Donnarumma, the PSG keeper, was absolutely battered by the oncoming player, which is Wilfried Singo from Monaco. Not only did they get beat 4-2, but he got clattered big time, one-on-one, by this challenge, which then resulted in this happening to his Chevy Chase. Anybody just listen to this on the audio, I've just showed you something that looks like it should be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because Donnarumma's cheek has been sliced and diced completely by his boot. That is rough as toast, Mark, isn't it, as a goalkeeper? You've been smashing a few one-on-ones, mate, and that is bad news.
Oh. Yeah, that's painful. I saw a tweet from somebody who said, the Monaco player should have been sent off. He's done nothing. It looks horrendous. He's tried to hurdle over him.
His pace has carried him in. I don't think he's
purely unlucky. In the Monaco players just try to hurdle him, and he can't get his leg high enough to get over. It's not malicious. There's no intent in that whatsoever. It's just one of those horrible moments.
Chipper says to you, what the hell is he doing? I hope he's not an investment banker, because he couldn't even save a quid. Could he? To be fair to me,
if you're going to stoop to those levels, I'm going to throw my own hat in the ring and say I'm still available.
I'd have you.
I'm 43, and I could probably still do a better job than Massimo Taibi. Christ,
I'd have you in goal over Taibi, but that is a terrible challenge. It really, really is. Marcus has gifted 10 more Evermore memberships. Marcus, my days, mate. Honestly, some generous man. You make a Mark cough with excitement there. That's how excited that he is. Paul is saying that Pope worries me every time he gets the ball played back. We need to keep that's comfortable with the ball at his feet. See, I like Ramsdale, even though he comes with a little bit of baggage because he's a little bit mental, like most keepers are. But, Southampton will go down, ain't no doubt about that. So Ramsdale will be available again. So you can probably get him at a complete snip price, really. So that could be another one maybe to look at in the summer, potentially.
Third side that he'll have relegated?
True. He wouldn't relegate us, though, mate. Wouldn't relegate.
Well, no, but I'm just there's a trend there, I think, for him.
True, very possibly. Yeah. Sorry, Craig. It's his worst nightmare, even worse than Donnarumma's face there. Sorry, mate. I'll stay away from him. But yeah, for me, I think Kelleher's the one to go for, because he won't be getting a game for Liverpool, and you've got to offer him that chance to be the number one. And I think he'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. If you're going to offer him a number one, he's going to snap the hands off for it, because he's not going to want to. Now he's had that taste in that run of first team football, I don't think he's going to want to sit around and be a number two. He's not going to want to. It's kind of like the Steve Harper kind of thing, isn't it? You'd sit around for almost a decade sitting behind Shea Given. It's just, you're not going to. Once you've had that taste of first team football, and you've played as well as you have, he's just not gonna want to sit and just lose that momentum in his game and in his career.
So Chippers has said he'd have Kelleher because he's a young keeper. I'm just laughing at Ian's comment. And Ramsdale is a scud. That's like my friend's T-shirt there. Didn't she call him a scud? Was it the Brown Bread Ross.
Oh, that was the brown. Yeah.
The challenge. That was a great episode. We've had Pete just subscribe to the channel. Good to see you, Pete. Thank you very much, mate. You did the right thing, Bonnie lad. Smash that button. Hang around a bit longer, mate. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. But yeah, no, it is interesting. It is interesting. I just think that it's certainly a position that needs to be improved upon. As much as the love Pope, I think it is definitely going to be a realization that something needs to get done. But listen, we've had some scary pictures there. Let's lighten the mood up a little bit here. So there was some really funny stuff going on in the world of football outside of Newcastle. So if you didn't know already, Frank Lampard is now the manager of Coventry City. So Coventry City happened to be absolutely battered by Portsmouth 4-1 at the weekend. And Portsmouth decided to post this up on social media, which anyone who knows this, Mark didn't know this, I'd explain to him. I think that's the drugs taking effect from his cold medicine. But obviously Portsmouth did that gag that Frank Lampard's very well known for. He does that laughing thing and he goes, no, but seriously, yeah, we need to work on that kind of thing. So that's what Portsmouth did there, which I thought was absolutely hilarious on social media. I think they did they take it down, Mark, or they were told to take it down or something like that, I think.
Well, that was the message I'd seen. It says, the
nonsense.
The admin had taken it down or something, and there were people giving them pelters for the fact that, not the fact they put it up, was the fact they taken. I mean, I had to have you explain it to us because I genuinely didn't get it.
So I struggled
well, that was funny. Yeah, look, it's a little bit of light-hearted humor. That's what it's all about. We're not supposed to just be completely serious all the time. Hence the reason we do this every bloody week. Is you've got to have a little bit of humour and things. So fair play to them for putting it up in the first place, and boo for taking it down.
I know. Well, that's the world that we live in now, mate, isn't it, as well? But speaking of shit teams, and the other side of the South Coast, Southampton have got a new manager, mate. So Southampton have taken a new manager who is Ivan Juric. He spent most of his time managing in Serie A. I think it is Genoa and Torino, two of his big sides that he managed. And I looked at his picture and I thought, I recognize that guy. I've seen him somewhere before. And I was scratching my head wondering who it was. And if you don't know already, this is the Southampton manager on the left. And that's fucking Jim's dad from American Pie on the right. And I could be looking in a mirror. They look exactly the same, these two. They really, really do. You know, maybe if he catches one of his players dry humping a pie in the dressing room, you might be able to give him some good advice on how to get away from the situation. But I've never heard of him as a manager. But yes, I loved him in American Pie, Mark, I must admit.
As soon as he said, I mean, I absolutely pissed my pants when not literally, obviously, but when I saw that, it was hilarious. And he does ridiculously like him. It's very, very cool.
Chipper says he's got a Mario look about him. You can imagine when they get beat 4-0, he goes, "Oh, here we go," when they get battered. So yeah, absolutely shite. But yeah, I hope Southampton go down. I'd never forget how much of a bunch of shit houses they were at the start of the season, mate. Absolute wankers they were.
Well, you've got one player just to bring it every time, and you just go for Ben Burton Diaz alone, relegated.
Yeah, Chipper says it's a me. It's a me. Fantastic. Well, we're going to end Out of Toon on somebody who actually we all know very well, a former Newcastle United player. Ironically enough, the last Newcastle player before Alexander Isak to get a hat-trick in the Premier League back, I think it was 2019 against Southampton, and that was this fella, Jose Perez. Now, if you hadn't saw this already, Jose Perez now plays for Villarreal. He's doing quite well. He's scoring a few goals for them as well. And he had an injury that took him out of the game. So this was posted up on social media. And I'm going to read this verbatim just so you can kind of get your head around this. Jose is injured. He will not participate in this match. He has a problem with his rectum again. He will definitely miss this match. And then we will see how long he will be out of the team. And then almost instantaneously after it, correction, Jose Perez has injured his rectus femoris, which is a muscle that's part of his quadriceps, and not his rectum, as stated above. I truly apologize for misleading with this post. I will pay more attention to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again in the future. I mean, that is a serious fuck up. I know when you do like a post and you can't edit it, and you make a spelling mistake, and you write like no instead of not. That one is really bad.
Yeah. I mean, funnily enough, I think I said to you before as well, I don't think that's the first time that's happened. I think there's another side admin or something that has posted something similar to that before, but that was hilarious. I mean, just to put on Good evening.
Villa fan in the house. Hello, Villa fan.
Preparing yourself
long as it's not that shit house from social media who's clearly a Mac and pretend to be a Villa fan.
But, dear God, no.
But yeah, I mean, God
more
bless
than welcome. More than welcome.
Bless. Definitely, all fans are welcome in our chat, long as there's no abuse there. And we're going to wrap this up soon because Mark is dying, as you can clearly see. So you're all welcome to Mark's wake on the next Monday show at 9:30, and we will light a candle for Mark and sing Elton John songs. I'm only joking; he'll be fine. He'll pull through. Don't you worry, guys. Don't you worry. But yes, yeah, you stay well this Christmas, Mark. And I always say, Perez, get one of them donuts. Put it on your chair for the Christmas dinner. Make sure you don't, strain any more rectums for your next game, mate. But that's us all done for this week, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who's tuned in, not just for today, but the entire year as well. We've had an amazing year as Evermore. Love the chat you guys give us on the Monday night show. It always helps it flow. We really enjoy doing it. We hope you all have a wonderful Christmas with your families. Enjoy it. Spend it with those you love the most. Drink and be merry. Raise a glass to those who can't be with you anymore. And we will see you again for the Aston Villa post-match analysis on Boxing Day, where hopefully we'll all be celebrating Newcastle getting another win as well. So have a belter, guys. Enjoy your Christmas, and we'll see you later.
Enjoy your Christmas, everyone. Have a good one.